Hello everybody, this is Full Time Devils. I am Stephen Howson, I'm joined by Statman Dave and John Shin, and this is the Chelsea preview. You are watching YouTube's biggest Manchester United football channel. Till about Sunday, when I think the official United one, which has just launched, is probably going to overtake us. But it's good for everybody on YouTube. It's great for us. It's great to have Manchester United bringing more eyes to YouTube so we all get more views. Absolutely fantastic. Delighted to have them on board. It's took them long enough. It's about bloody time. Right, so we've got a big game this weekend that we're going to be talking about. And for me, it seems like it's become a real personal thing between Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte. David, what do you make of this? Talk to the people. What do you think?
I love it. Mourinho's already won this battle. He won this battle months ago when he dropped the old allegations about certain problems that Conte had over in Italy. You know, since I think that game happened, in the next 3 games, Chelsea didn't win a game. They didn't even score a goal. So it's one of these things where Mourinho's planted these seeds so early because, to be honest, Chelsea are probably the team that are going to give us the biggest race for second position. I think Liverpool may go through another spell where they're struggling a bit with form. But it's good for Mourinho to play that card early. What I want to see from Mourinho that maybe wasn't there in the other game against Chelsea is a little bit more aggression, a little bit more pressure. I think in terms of the approach, it's got to be a little bit more high octane than we've seen recently. Like, it needs to be a bit physical. It needs to be a battle. And United need to sort of draw Chelsea into this and then use that sort of calmness after they've they've fired Chelsea up, then calm, then hit them on the counter-attack. Simple as that. But I love that Mourinho's pretty much won this already. Conte looks like a different character after those comments.
He absolutely does. And Dave, you're absolutely right that we do need to see a bit more high octane. And I would go as far as to say just pure aggression from Manchester United in this game. This is Old Trafford. This is still a big bleeding game. And we definitely need to get out of the blocks fast because far too often in these big games, Manchester United have tried to sit back, counter and be reactive. United need to get on the front foot for a change and absolutely make something happen. John, we've mentioned the stuff that's been going on in the press conferences. Jose's not really had his way with Conte since he's been in the Premier League. Do you see that changing in this game this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, you could, as Dave mentioned, it's perfect. Conte has looked so shaken up since Jose Mourinho sort of riled him up in that regard. And I think it's perfect to sort of get him in this situation because Antonio Conte is very animated. He's very emotional. And Jose Mourinho, as much as both managers have, won trophies in the past, they have a significant amount of experience. Jose Mourinho one-ups Conte in that respect. He's been in the game much longer. He's been in the game in a much sort of higher level, if you will. So I think Jose Mourinho is going to find this perfect opportunity to sort of take this advantage from a mental perspective and take him on in that approach. And of course, at the end of the day, there's going to be that conversation saying that this is sort of like a media hype and this is sort of a hype between Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte to sort of pump this game up. But I definitely do think there's something there, and I think Antonio Conte is definitely going to pour some emotion in that, and I think we can definitely take that to advantage.
David, does United's form going into this game worry a little bit? I'm not just talking about the form in the big games. I'm just talking about form, period. Is our form coming into a game like this worry you, or do you think that Mourinho has had his eye on this and we'll be all right to get through it?
I think in terms of the players that are, I'd rather be in form than not, are the centre halves. And I think Victor Lindelof has been fantastic since coming back into the side. Similar with Chris Smalling. I think he was good against Huddersfield, and I think he played reasonably well against Sevilla. A slight lapse in positional concentration for their big chance, but apart from that, he was quite calm and defended quite well. That was the weakness for Manchester United. That for me is their sort of like soft underbelly is at centre half, and they look like they're coming into form. The other problem is attacking wise, it's not quite clicking at the moment. Sanchez has come in. Obviously, he's a wonderful player, but it doesn't look quite right yet in terms of his movement, what he's looking for, the passes he's sort of looking to play, the 1-2s. It looks like he's not quite right with his teammates yet. So that is a little bit of a worry. And considering the form of Anthony Martial in 2018, he's United's top scorer in the Premier League in 2018. It's been a bit of, we've signed Sanchez and now Martial's on the bench. Martial's got to be playing because he's been pretty decent this season, but you've got to play Juan Mata. There's a little bit of selection problem, which I think is a slight issue. So to get the best out of that is going to be the sort of difficulty for Mourinho in the coming months is to how to find the right blend. But against Chelsea, for me, it's going to have to be 2 strikers with Jess Lingard in behind. That's what I feel United are going to get the best out of both the system and exposing Chelsea's back 3. But defensively, midfield as well. Scott McTominay's form's been good. I thought Matic defensively was good. On the ball, he was poor against Sevilla. And then Paul Pogba, though, has been a bit off colour. He needs to be back for this game. And I think giving him the license to maybe counter-attack and be a little bit more attacking could be perfect in this game.
We'll talk a little bit more in depth about the selections when we do the team selection, because there's a couple of things that I want to bring up. Remember, you guys watching at home as well, you can get your comments in below and I'll read some of those out a little bit later on. So one of the questions that I've got for you today now is, what is success for Manchester United this season? Because at the start of the season, we wanted to see progression from 6th place last year. We wanted to see progression in the league. No one was really sitting here thinking Manchester United was going to win the Champions League, but we wanted to have a good showing in there. And we wouldn't have minded picking up something like the FA Cup as well. With that potentially being on the horizon, an FA Cup win, quarters or maybe even semi-finals at a push of the Champions League and coming second, would that be a successful season? Or, I don't like the word success, maybe acceptable season from Manchester United? John, what do you reckon?
I think an acceptable or a successful season is progression, and I think that's the major key for Manchester United fans, or should be the standard. We're still in this transition phase, and I hate the damn word because I feel like we've been using it every single damn day since Sir Alex Ferguson's departed. But it is true. We are moving on from the sort of old-fashioned era or the sort of SAF era, if you will. So I think progression is key. Last season, if we sort of use last season as benchmark, we took the League Cup, we won the Europa League, and we finished with the Champions League qualification under our belt. This season, like you mentioned, I would love to see us end with a trophy, whether it be an FA Cup or something of that ilk. And moving on maybe into the semis, quarters, into the Champions League. And for me, while that is important, I think the most important thing is to end on a positive note. I think if we end with that positive vibe and that positive energy, it'll definitely be important for us to use that as a leeway or a leverage for attracting other players, especially with the World Cup on the horizon.
So this was a question from Aaron Lesbach on Facebook, which is why we've been asking it in this. Dave, what's your thoughts on that? What is success for Manchester United this season, and what is acceptable as well for United this season?
I think in terms of success, if it was, just on success, it'd be second in the league at the moment, FA Cup win, Champions League semi-final. That would be defined as a successful season. But again, as John said, it's not about success at the moment, it's about progression. And I think if you look back to last season, and United beat Chelsea with a 3-5-2, Marcus Rashford and Jess Lingard up front, you look at the depth and the quality that United now have in those positions, as well with Jess Lingard, Marcus Rashford and Antonio Martial. The progression is there, Alexis Sanchez and, of course, Lukaku. It's starting to grow, it's starting to build, and I think that's a big, big thing. United shouldn't be judged at the moment whether they're winning the league yet. That should be coming in maybe next season, when again Mourinho's had another window to get guys that he wants to bring in, maybe a centre half, maybe a defensive midfielder, a fullback, and then it's about the success. The moment it's about building, and it's about those building blocks and getting those in the right places. And I think it's with United, it's sort of like the positive. It's so swingy this season where we'll be so pumped up. We drew 0-0 with Sevilla, but that's quite a good result considering they had so many chances they didn't score. We're going to Old Trafford, and all we need to do is win the game. Simple as that. It's kind of like it's moving in the right direction. I think a positive win against Chelsea could really kickstart our season. Of course, we're just going into March now, but it's all about the business end. We're in cup competitions. The league's pretty much done. We're in the Champions League and we're in the FA Cup. 2 cup competitions. Mourinho's one of the best managers in world football at winning a tie over 2 legs. So it's all about, kicking on. You think last season, Europa League, we were still pretty poor when we played Anderlecht. That was a bit of a stinker for Man United. But then we started to be like, right, this is how we defend. This is how we win these cup games. Go away to Celta Vigo, beat them. And I think that's the type of thing that United need to be thinking about now. It's winning cup games. The league is more of something where Mourinho maybe could build a bit of momentum, but try some systems out, try some players in different positions. But it's about the cups and moving that forward for Man United this season.
By the same rule, though, you say it would be, we started to kick on, and if we had a positive result against Chelsea, that would give everyone a bit of a lift. But if we don't get a positive result, I can honestly see a lot of the fans turning. I saw a lot of people saying get rid of Mourinho after getting a draw away from home in Europe. If you remember, I think Sir Alex won 2 or 3 games his entire career in Spain. I think people have got unrealistic expectations for a lot of stuff. Now, I agree we didn't have a good performance, and you can always criticise a performance, but we're in a results business. And I think a draw away from home in the Champions League, in the knockout stage, is a good result.
So the last 3 times that we've drawn away from home in the Champions League, we've gone on to the final. So it's one of these things where maybe it's not that bad a result. Maybe, containing a home side to 0 goals at home isn't really advantageous. Of course, it was the other way around and United got an away goal. Then United have pretty much won the tie. It's game over. Still competitive. There's still a game to be had at Old Trafford. But Mourinho's home record and what he can do and the options he has off the bench now to go and get a win. You think about, you've still got Zlatan knocking around. If Zlatan's fit for that second leg and we need to play Zlatan, Alexis Sanchez, Romelu Lukaku, Martial, Marcus Rashford, could play 5 forwards and we could do that. So I think there's options now for Mourinho, and I feel like I'm in a comfortable position in the Champions League, and that's what I want United to win, is the Champions League, because that for me is the pinnacle of world football, best competition in the world, and that's where you're playing against the best players.
I absolutely agree, and we're in it. We're still in the competition. That doesn't mean that I'm sitting here saying we're going to win the damn thing. But we are still in the competition. As long as you're still in it, you do have a chance, as slim as that chance can be. And I'd be a lot more confident if I just saw a few instances from United where we actually carved the team open in a couple of moves, akin to similar what we saw against Huddersfield. If we'd have done that maybe half a dozen times in the last month or two, I'd be actually pretty confident coming up against the bigger teams. Maybe this weekend's the time for us to show that, because there probably will be a little bit of space in the opposition third for us to exploit. It's if we can exploit that. And it's also a brilliant game for Lukaku to start scoring in as well, I would think. We've got some comments here from you guys on Facebook. Now remember, if you don't just want to comment, if you would like to ring us up and talk to us, yesterday we do a podcast on every Thursday, 6 till 7 on XS Manchester. You can either watch it live as it goes out as a live video, or you can, once you finish this, you can go watch it. But if you're watching and listening live, you can phone up and have your say as well. That's what we're all about. So if you'd like to get involved rather than just commenting on Facebook, you'd actually like to ring us up, that's the place to do it. Dipnil says Marshall should start. I think Marshall will start. I think that was the reason he was on the bench in midweek. Raw Sauce says Smalling made a few great tackles against Sevilla. And then the very next comment underneath it was, are you serious? Smalling was a shambles. I think positionally, we've all seen that little gif going around where he gets caught in 2 minds. Would it?
So, sorry, that's one moment in the game. Smalling may not be at the right calibre to compete with the best centre-halves in the world, but we can't be so negative about him. When he plays well, you've got to accept he plays well. You can't forget that, you put in a good performance. Huddersfield, probably man of the match. Whenever you talk about that, people are like, nah, it was rubbish. No, he played very well. Against Sevilla, yeah, there's that one moment in the game where he's caught out, and that's something he needs to work on. But
I don't think it was just that one moment in the Sevilla game, though. I thought there was a few instances in the Sevilla game where he was a little bit shaky, a little bit unsure, both in possession and when defending. I thought the midfield was really solid against Sevilla, but I thought the defence was an absolute mistake waiting to happen.
So you just mentioned there that the midfield was good against Sevilla. I thought the midfield was atrocious in terms of their positioning and how deep they were. Solid. That's all I said, solid. I think it was great in possession. Right? Near the halfway, United were giving their 2 defensive midfielders the ball, and Zonzi and Eva Benega had the ball. There was no pressure. The pressure didn't come. And then when they transitioned through the next third of the pitch, United dropped again and then didn't pressurise them again. There was no pressure on Eva Benega.
I think that's pure tactics that they've been told to. That's what I thought he was solid.
Chances in the game, whether it's tactics or not, it didn't work. You can't allow a defensive midfielder to dictate that deep. That was poor. We can't look at it in isolation. Smalling was bad, but then the midfield was good when they bossed the midfield, and defensively we were all right. Plus David De Gea had a worldie once again, as he always does.
We're not dissecting Sevilla here. We're talking about Chelsea, so zip it. All right.
I want to.
Right, Peter. I mean, these 2 comments here just show the absolute divide that we've got in fans at the moment. Peter says, "Don't doubt Mourinho. The guy knows our fans are nuts." The very next comment is Mourinho the right manager for us? I mean, I'll come to these guys now and ask them, but for me, yes, because I simply don't see many other options out there. It takes somebody to be able to put their stamp and their authority into this club and stop being babies for the players, essentially. What do you 2 think?
I'll go first. I mean, Jose Mourinho is obviously the man to sort of take us. If you look at it from a pure aggressive perspective, like you just mentioned, who do we replace him with? I mean, you're not going to drop him now, or you're not going to drop him at the end of the season and find anybody else. If you look at the names that that have been name dropped the past few seasons, Pochettino, he's still a little bit ambiguous for me. As a manager, if you want to be sort of labeled as a successful on-the-coming manager, you need to be able to win something, and Pochettino still has yet to do that with Spurs, and they have a fantastic side, so he still has a bit to prove for me. And there's plenty of other managers out there that sort of aren't really available or aren't ready for their transition or ready for their move. So there's not really much available. And from a pure quality perspective, Jose Mourinho, at the end of the day, he's a manager of very high caliber. I mean, he is, he's won things that you can only dream of. So just to have Jose Mourinho is an absolute honor. I mean, of course, you're not going to enjoy the fact that he plays draft football. Sometimes he plays very defensive, and he's known for this parking the bus nonsense and crap. But at the end of the day, Jose Mourinho is sort of the guy that's transitioning us from the sort of olden days of Sir Alex Ferguson and David Gill, and sort of pushing on us forward into the sort of modern era and keeping us up at the time. So I think that's not a conversation that we should be having right now.
I lost you a little bit. The volume went down a little bit. I think one thing that I would say is, Dave, do you think Jose the right man or not?
Yeah, of course he's the right man. I think he's the only man for Manchester United after Ferguson. I think they should have got him when Ferguson left. You need Mourinho as someone that can instantly step in when you lose someone like a Sir Alex Ferguson that has been the club for 26 years and he's been there, he's done everything, he's completely bossed the show. You need that personality, and maybe that's where Man United went a little bit wrong, was not getting that big personality, and that's what United need is that right now is Mourinho. They need someone that can take stick, that can give it out, that can play mind games, that can do this, that can do that. United just need that right now. They need Mourinho as much as Mourinho needs Manchester United. So it's a good relationship to have, and I think that it's the right time for Mourinho. He's doing the right thing. He's progressing the team. He's integrating a lot of young players that we keep forgetting. Half of our squad is under the age of 25. So for me, it's fine. I'm enjoying Mourinho. I think it's progression, and that's what you want to see at Manchester United.
Yeah, I agree on that. It is progression, although at times it's not as fast as we want. We're an instant gratification society, aren't we? Everyone wants it now, and people don't want to work for things. And I think we have to work. We've gone from 6th to 2nd. People don't generally go from 6th to champions. The next comment, proof of this. I mean, Hippo says, still in transition. How long do you want? Well, it's been 18 months under Jose Mourinho. You have to basically start again from afresh when you get rid of the manager. When we get rid of Moyes, we started again with Louis van Gaal. When we get Louis van Gaal, we start again with Jose Mourinho. Now, when you say how long do you want for transition, United are spending money. Yes, we are spending money, but we're still making up for the lack of investment for the previous 10 years. Manchester City have not got the same back five as they had last season. Manchester United are playing the same back five that we had in the 2011 season. Now, I think you can say it's going to take us a little bit longer. At the high price that we're paying for players doesn't really correlate to the number of players that we're pulling through. We maybe need to be signing more players of like Bayer sort of stature, that 30, 35 million pound mark, and getting more of those in rather than the 90, 80 million pound. Maybe we could do with more players. Raw Sauce says FA Cup, Champions League quarterfinals, and 2nd in the Premier League. To be fair, mate, that's really on the cards. I make us favourites for the FA Cup, looking at who's left in it. I think we can comfortably finish 2nd in the Premier League. Definitely depends on the 3 points against Chelsea this weekend. And we're 1 win away from achieving quarterfinals in the Champions League. So we're not far off those if those are realistic goals. But the season will always be dictated on and reflected on how we finish. If we finish losing 4 or 5 games on the bounce and still come 2nd, it's not going to have a good feel to it, I don't think, unless we finish on a high. Vignesh says, Jose has to sort his tactics out. He doesn't know what he's doing in the big games. I think he does know what he's doing in the big games, but we're not doing what he wants us to do in the big games. I think there's a difference between Jose Mourinho's plan and what actually happened on the pitch. And I think people forget that. I think people look at the result and say, that was what he wanted. That's not necessarily the case. I think he's gone into every big game, including City, including Liverpool, with an idea of how to come away with it with 3 points, but it's not worked. And that's where he gets paid to figure out why it's not worked and put it right for the next time. And Hippo says, Man United fans settling for a poor season. It's not really the case, is it, mate? I think you what do you do if you can't? You've got to just do whatever you do, haven't you? Dave, do you think we're settling for a poor season here?
No, it's rubbish. It's funny.
John, are we settling for a poor season here? I don't think anyone's settling.
No, I don't think so. I think progress is happening.
And Dan Ingham says, more Scott McTominay, please. Very intelligent and composed for his age. I think there's a player developing in there, but I'm not sure he's ready to start. I certainly wouldn't be looking forward to seeing him start this weekend. A and we're going to come to that starting 11s in a second. Top of the league at the moment, we've got Adam McCullough is racing away from you at the moment, John. John's in second, Dave is in third. Chance here for Dave to overtake John.
Ooh!
There's only 4 points in it between you two. So, John, let's come to you first. Starting 11 time. Who's in your team? And is Scott McTominay one of those that's in your team?
No, I don't think producer Chris has produced a graphic for me, so I kind of made one on my own. I don't know.
The whiteboard is back.
Is that a good angle? I don't know. Is that okay? Can you
we're going for a 3-5-2. I love it.
Yes, sir. So I'm just gonna talk to you guys for a real short second here. Obviously, David De Gea, you can see massive characters because who else do you play? I went for a back three or back five, however you like to say it. Shaw, Rojo, Smalling, Bailly, and Valencia. And the reason why I picked Bailly, I think he's going to be crucial in this side. He was the man who was really giving Eden Hazard a hard time when we played against Chelsea last time. I forgot the exact sort of time and season, but Eric Bailly was the man who was kicking Hazard about, letting him know, asserting his authority that at the end of the day, you're not going to get this game easy, and I think that's going to be a massive, massive key. I mean, Hazard has been a huge, crucial figure for that Chelsea squad, so I'm going to put Bailly there. Valencia hasn't been really cutting it up for me, but, I mean, who else can you pick on that side? So that's my back five. I went for a midfield 3 or a midfield 2 with Lingard sort of here at the 10. I don't know, however you like to sort of say it, but you really need to start this 3 because you have to have the industry from Lingard, you have to have the quality from Pogba, and Matic really needs to also step up. He hasn't been cutting it for me these past few days. He's been a little bit slow and lethargic at times. He's looked lagging when he's chasing back or tracking back, and I think that needs to be improved, especially when we're going against a front 3 or front 4 of a Chelsea side that's combined with Willian, Pedro, and Hazard. So that's going to be a big key game for Matic there as well. But Pogba, I mean, we've all been talking about Pogba. I put up a video about Pogba and the conundrum that we're having with him. We need to let him play. We need to let him flourish. I mean, you could see that Jose Mourinho sort of lined up that midfield 3 of Herrera, McTominay, and Matic against Sevilla to be a very structured, to be a very, I don't want to say negative, but to be very, very rigid and to be very structured in defense, to be able to grind out a result, and to have Pogba sort of ironically come on as a substitute for Ander Herrera, who was injured. You could see that he sort of told Pogba or instructed Pogba, this is your game. Your game is to really play defensive. Your game is to not pass through this line, and you're going to really make sure that you're more worried about positioning more so than anything else. So I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to write back this way. But anyway, that's the point. You're going to go for midfield 3. And front 2, Lukaku and Sanchez. I mean, I'm not sure which way you're going to sort of have them up there, but you need to make sure that, like Statman Dave mentioned, the link-up play is there. Lukaku has been doing well at times with that link-up play, allowing the midfielders to sort of join in on the attack, especially when we have such a big distance between the midfield when we're going from transition from defense into attack. So this is going to be very, very important for us. And, at the end of the day, it's Chelsea. It's the Premier League. Like Dave mentioned, I really would prefer the Champions League over the Premier League. Obviously, not that we have a choice, but I would love to see us pull up a really good result against Chelsea.
I really like looking at that team. I really like the balance in that team. The only 2 changes I think I would make is one for an injury and one for, I think Jose would be a little bit more defensive with it, and that would be Carrick in for Lingard and probably put Carrick behind Matic and Pogba, just for someone who can control possession a little bit more. But I understand why you've gone with Lingard, and I think that's a good shout. And probably Lindelof in for Rojo, because I think Rojo's injured and I'm not sure he's going to play. And as Dave said earlier, I think in a 3, you absolutely can play Lindelof, and he's another ball player. Maybe Lindelof in the defence and Lingard instead of Carrick, that might work, because then you've got someone who can play out a little bit from the back. But that's an interesting thought. That I do like the idea of us going with a 3, because Chelsea like to play with 3 at the back, so you quite often do see Mourinho matching up with whatever back 3 or back 4 the opposition do. He likes to kind of match that. He doesn't usually like to go against whatever the opposition's doing. Dave, let's have a look at your starting 11, please, my mate.
Yeah, well, I think I've got a point back on John. I think what you just mentioned there, the Marcus Rojo Lindelof thing. So hopefully that's 1 point back for Statman Dave. In terms of the team, 3-4-1-2. De Gea in goal, a back 3 similar to John, but instead of course, Rojo, Victor Lindelof, Bailly, Smalling, Lindelof. I think Smalling suits the back three. Bay just needs a bit of minutes and he'll be back to his best. But Victor Lindelof's been fantastic in a back three when he's played there for Man United. You think the Arsenal away game, he kept Alexis Sanchez quiet. You think the game against Watford away, the 4-2 win, Lindelof up against Richarlison, who was one of the former Premier League players at that point, kept him when the ball's on the ground, kept him sort of in his pocket. So Victor Lindelof, again, ball player, as you mentioned, but I think his composure, his pace is needed to be one of these outside centre-halves, depending on where Eden Hazard plays, whether he plays as a 10 or on the left wing. Victor Lindelof could be up against him, and I think that would be good because you're playing a right footer on the left side. Eden Hazard cuts in, so you've got someone that's naturally in the correct position already, being right-footed, playing on the left-hand side of that back three. Into midfield, the midfield four, Valencia on the right, Pogba, Matic and Ashley Young. I think the two wing-backs, probably the best for Man United are going to get at the moment in terms of both attack and defence. Valencia up against Mikel Alonso has been a real good battle in recent games between the two sides. Valencia arguably doing a job on his opposite man. So again, that right wing for United, forcing them back on that sort of left-hand side is going to be crucial. And then Jess Lingard in the hole behind Lukaku and Sanchez. I kind of disagree with John's three-man midfield. I wouldn't play one holding with two ahead. I think I'd play two holding with one ahead. I think Pogba looked quite good in this three-man midfield, this composition against Arsenal. That was one of United's best away performances, the best against the top six, should we say. And it was crucial that United pressed in certain phases and then dropped back. So maybe it's going to be a hybrid between mine and John's midfield, actually, just thinking about it live. But I think Pogba maybe towards the right-hand side, just because that's how they'll face up with Matic as a two. But Jess Lingard pressurising and doing the job forward. Of course, the front two as well, Sanchez, Lukaku. Sanchez on the left-hand side, Lukaku on the right. Simple as that. Those two need to play as many minutes as possible. In a two is going to be really interesting to see them combine. Sanchez played as a two when he played for Udinese back when he was in Serie A a number of years ago with Di Natale. That worked really well. Sanchez played as sort of a central winger, starting from a central position but moving out wide and combining, with the wing back or if a midfielder pulled out there. So it's going to be a really interesting selection, but I think it's all going to be about using that number 10 to get behind the Chelsea midfield.
I like that selection as well. The only thing I would say is I can't see any reason for selecting Ashley Young over Luke Shaw at the moment. He's error-prone, mistake-prone, and I think... I know we're going to get into it with him, but it
was one of the only attacking moves away at Sevilla. Ashley Young busting a gut down the left wing, taking on about three players, and then, creating something in the final third. It's just funny.
I got no...
Your glasses, Howson. They're very anti-Ashley Young.
They're truthful. Glasses is what they are. I think just from a pure defensive point of view, there's... In the big games we've played recently, Ashley Young's been an issue for me, and I would play Shaw over him all day long. I do think you've got a point with the 3-4-3, 3-4, 2-1 or 1-2, whatever you want to call it, because I think Jose's played the midfield like that with a back three more than he's played the 3-5-2. I would be happy with either of those formations with the right mentality, to be honest. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I don't think we're going to play 4-2-3-1. I'm just happy about that, to be honest, going into this game. Let's talk about Chelsea, and you guys can get your comments in below as well. What's your thoughts on the formation? And don't just give us a formation, give us a reasoning for the formation as well. What reasoning are you seeing? What are you seeing in Chelsea tactically that you think Manchester United should face up against? So Dave, let's talk about Chelsea. What do we need to be looking for? What do we need to be worried about? And how do you expect they're going to line up?
I think the really interesting side is where Eden Hazard's going to play. I think that's the sort of tactical decision that Conte had midweek against Barcelona. He played as a false nine, central in the 3-4-3. Willian had a brilliant game, hit the post, hit the bar, then scored a pretty decent goal. Barcelona, for me, they outplayed Chelsea in that game. Obviously, Barcelona, completely different side to Manchester United in terms of their approach, but I think the things that you can take from that is, using someone like a Messi or a Sanchez to get involved in the play, but starting as a striker. Of course, Barca played a 4-4-2 diamond, but it's going to be similar in a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-1-2 for Manchester United for Sanchez to come deep and get involved in the play. But I think it's about Hazard, how to deal with him. Smalling will pick him up if he plays false nine. Smalling's played quite well against Chelsea in recent years in a back three, moving out and being aggressive, or if he is played on the left, again, it was Victor Lindelof who will be dealing with him. But it is about the wing backs. There's a lot of battles, but the big thing for United, I think, is that 3 versus 2 in central midfield. It'll be, whoever's going to face up for Chelsea in central midfield, Kante, Fabregas, whoever want to go against that 3-man midfield for United. That is where United will win the game. But I think it's about pressurising them deep as well. And please, just don't let Aspilicueta cross the halfway line and let him cross. Just please. It will kill me. If that happens again, I think I'm going to flip out. Because it's just one of these things where it happened so frequently in the first half of the season. It was like he'd already had 4 assists. Aspilicueta clipping it to Morata. Then it does it against United. And it's like, have you lads read the tactical briefing?
John, what do you think we should be expecting against Chelsea?
I think I'm gonna revert back to the board for a hot second here.
Oh yeah!
So this is the opposite side. I wanted to emphasize a little bit more on the front players, the forward players. Obviously, Hazard and Willian is sort of a locked-in choice. I think the major cause for concern is Antonio Conte going to opt for Giroud or Morata. And I think he's obviously going to go for Morata rather than Giroud. But I would rather prefer that. I think Giroud probably would be a little bit more of an asset against the Manchester United side. I think it'll be sort of a deadlock in the middle of the park. I think we'll be able to sort of nullify everywhere else. But I think when it comes to crossing, I think Antonio Conte is going to really utilize Giroud to be that target man in the box to hit these crosses with these headers. And I mean, Morata has a decent sort of aerial game as well, but I think Giroud is a more lethal sort of aerial presence than Morata. Maybe Morata adds a bit more unpredictability in his game, as opposed to Giroud, who's more so 1 or 2 dimensional. But if you kind of look at this squad, if you look at this team, it's kind of like, oh, sorry, wrong drawing. I meant to draw something else. It didn't look right from this side.
Was you just going to draw a big knob?
I was supposed to draw it didn't look right, so I completely failed because I was supposed to draw a middle finger, but I couldn't see it well from this side. So, anyways, my point is we need to make sure that we really nullify that forward presence, and like Dave mentioned, the crossing is a massive, massive influence.
John was about to draw a knob live on. It's a family show, John. Maniac.
Sorry. I didn't mean to draw that. I was looking for a middle finger, but I messed up completely.
All right, give us your score, John.
I'm going to go for, I think we'll be able to grind out a 2-1 victory.
Ooh. David, score?
Well, if they read the tactical briefing this time, Howson, it's going to be 2-0 to Manchester United, and that is going to be crucial.
I actually agree with Dave. I think it's going to be 2-0. I think United have got a real knack for keeping clean sheets at the moment. Mostly down to the absolute Superman that we have in goal at the moment, which we've not really mentioned, have we? The guy's on another planet at the moment. Absolutely fantastic, Dave the save. I fancy 2-0. You lot let me know in the comments what you think in terms of score predictions, what you think in terms of team selection, and obviously how the game's going to go down. And who's going to crack first? Is it Jose or is it Conte? Let us know all of that in the comments below. Make sure to go and give John's channel a follow, Dave's channel a follow, and if you're throwing out follows, you might as well come and follow me as well. And there's a little channel that probably needs a little bit of help. It's Manchester United. If you want to go throw some of those, it's all right, whatever. We'll see you on Sunday with all the match day coverage coming out for the big game, Manchester United versus Chelsea. We'll see you then.
Howson.
Oh, hang on.
One last thing.
Dave's got a plug.
I've got a vlog coming out for the away trip to Sevilla. Go and check it out on my channel. It's going to be out this afternoon. So go and give that an absolute watch and a like. Cheers.
There you go. Orders. Right, nice one. See you later.